I'm Satyendra Bhagat, an architect, a natural builder, a traveler, passionate traveler, nature lover, a trekker. That's how I like to introduce myself in front of anybody who, needs my introduction. Probably architecture comes last. So my traveling actually started when I was a school-going kid. I traveled from Pune to Sinhagad. There is a place called Sinhagad on bicycle when I was in 8th standard. After that, I traveled to uh, Alibag, then traveled to Mahabaleshwar, then traveled to Nagpur, then I traveled to Goa when I was in 10th standard, and then in 11th standard, I again traveled to eastern part of Maharashtra. I did cycling from Pune to Nepal. Then traveling was the main thing. It was not about cycling. It was about more about traveling and knowing people, seeing these places, getting introduced to different cultures. Then I did biking from Pune to Leh Ladakh, China border, Tibet border. I always loved traveling. Recently, I traveled to Meghalaya. It was a hitchhiking trip. And the concept for that hitchhiking trip was, knowing Khasi villages, looking at, knowing the culture from very close. My concept for this particular Meghalaya trip was 300 rupees per day, including travel and food and stay, everything. And I could manage it. You can do it in India very well. But I always felt, when I got into architectural practice and I come from Pune city, which is a typical metro city, and I was living somehow, I felt it was pinching to me that I was living a very contradictory life to my own life philosophies, which I enjoyed most all the time. So at one point of time, I thought like I should, stop doing this and I should start something which is close to my heart. We started thinking about me and my wife, she's here. So we started thinking about living a sustainable life, at least give a try to it, give a complete and genuine and honest try to it. So we started thinking what sustainable life is all about. So then we read books, we interacted with people, we did some research on internet, and then we realized that our overall understanding is quite incomplete. Incomplete in terms. So, for example, like we have a lot of information and data what our world is facing, the global warming, global issues. Now, this is just for example. Like this is the 1.91 tons of carbon emission which average Indian person has. So this is the data we have, and which is with compared to average American is very low, which is in tune of 15.5 tons per annum. For Canadian, it is around in tune of 19 tons per annum. So this gives me a very happy feeling, our carbon emission per person per capita is very low. But just for curiosity, when I converted this data, total carbon emission per square kilometer, and I realized we are highest, probably it is 770 tons per square kilometer, whereas for American it is 500, in tune of 500 tons. So same data makes me feel good, but same data can make me feel unhappy when I look at the whole thing, analyze it in a different perspective. So I thought it's a lot of perspective about many things. Okay, then I felt somehow what we need to do. See, not everybody has bandwidth or courage or strength to fight with the system all the time and work in groups, But I thought like what we need to do probably is have a very local approach, because though we call it a global issue, the solution lies at a very local level. So we started thinking about what personally I can do, what as a family we can do. So we thought of this, kind of a local approach, very local approach, which can give a solution to a global issue. So there are people, who are understanding and pursuing the whole issue in a very different way. So they all are doing great job. People are working in groups, and there are entrepreneurs, and then there are major social activists, and then there are NGOs. But I felt it like this story of, for my personal perspective, like I felt it like a story of this elephant and blind man. So there are people who are working in compartments, and they are working great. But when it comes to me as a person, what I should be doing, I thought I had to look at the whole issue, not in compartments, but holistically. what I do, what I can do, what my family can do. And we have to cater all these aspects, issues on day-to-day basis, and everything has to be dealt. So yeah, we started doing self-study and self-analysis, and first thing we decided that we'll stop saying, I want to save nature. We want to save nature. Because when we say, I want to save nature, I separate myself, from the nature. What is more necessary is that, I need to understand that I am nature. I am part of the nature. I am just one of the elements of this whole ecosystem. And once you realize this thing, then you really start understanding how we can really coexist with the nature, what efforts you need to do. Now we are staying in Pune like city, which is an urban setup, and then in that setup, we can't have all the privilege, to experiment on our day-to-day basis life. So we decided to come up with a human scale, a real-life laboratory for ourselves. We named it as Eco Whisper. So Eco Whisper is a concept. Whisper, like you whisper something with the nature, and nature will echo it back in abundance to you. So that is what we call it, Eco Whisper. So in Marathi we say, Kuzbuz Nisargashi. So Nisarga is nature, Kuzbuz is just whispering. So we always, whenever we start something new, we always think a lot about what I want to achieve, what I am supposed to do. But having a list of what not to do things, is more important. That is what we felt for ourselves. And we started preparing that list. And we decided, no digging of borewells, because borewell is something which is the worst thing we do with the Mother Earth. Then no conventional farming, no major heavy machinery to be used, no unnecessary changes in the land form, no use of cement or any structural steel, no ambitious commercial activity under the fear of sustenance. Because every time we want to start up something, we first think, यार नहीं, बाकी सब ठीक है, but we have to sustain, इतना तो कमाना चाहिए कि ये sustain हो जाए. So that fear makes us sometimes, more imbalanced. It doesn't happen with everybody probably, but many times it happens, that fear is always there. So there are many other no's also which are coming up every day as we are going, walking further ahead and ahead. So after preparing this list of no, we realize that one approach we have to have is that, challenge our each and every definition that we have developed over the period of time when we are staying with our urban social fabric. So that is something, which is necessary, because whatever we feel right or whatever we have defined something in a specific way, we have to challenge our definitions. So that is the one thing we thought. Now we have to start with the building construction. So obviously we needed a house. So we started with this construction. Being a qualified architect, we are trained in a very specific direction, because we learn architecture 5 years after our 12th standard, and then I have been practicing in a conventional practice. So our brain is programmed, brains are programmed in a very specific direction. So we started looking at architecture beyond buildings, because we learn architecture by studying other buildings. And architecture is not only buildings, it is beyond buildings. So we started looking at in a different perspective. So yeah, we are trained to think about aesthetics and safety and security, water, electricity, food, and technology. So like for aesthetics, we always feel, building, we always design most of the buildings to satisfy only our visual senses. We don't think beyond that most of the time. And that's an unfortunate reality. But aesthetics cannot be a constant. It is not a fixed definition. Aesthetics is how you look at it. It is about the perspective you have, So, like for example, this countdown plastered wall is very beautiful. If you just develop that, approach, your perspective. So, similarly, about safety and security. So, what happens, whenever an urban person moves to a rural area, he has a fear of some, or prejudiced way of thinking in his mind, and he wants to have a solution to that. So we always feel that safety and security can be achieved by fencing the property, or by doing some, putting some more guards, having some mechanical devices. But please believe, it doesn't come only with that. Like even if we are putting a fencing now, this is a natural fence that we have put it for our project. So unlike our other fences we make, like barbed wire fencing or constructed fencing, which gets deteriorated over the period of time, Unlike that, this is a medicinal plant which is available in abundance in my area. We call it nirgudi. So you just cut any branch, put it in soil, water it, and it will grow. So we developed this fencing, and unlike other fences, it is growing, and we smartly just completed this thing before monsoon, so we did not even have to water it. So this is the way, a very small innovative approach can give you a very good and positive solution. Now, safety and security is achieved majorly by a healthy community, and how you contribute to the society, to the community. And we were thinking, because whenever any urban person, moves to a rural area, people don't accept them immediately. And reason are not they, reason are we, because we don't understand their way of thinking, their culture. So we were thinking, what intervention probably we can have to get connected with them. And we thought this education is an area which is a need of my area, probably most of the rural part of India. So we thought of intervening from this particular opening. So this aperture gave us an opportunity, and my wife is a very good teacher. She's a very innovative teacher. So we started taking classes, we supported them for their formal education which they are getting from the schools. So because kids were attached with us, their mothers got attached, and now through them, we are getting connected with their families. Now these are their family members who work on my project. Now most of the time, we know only one type of transaction, urban people, give money and hire services. So most of the time we go and deal with these people, we give them money, daily wages, and we hire their services. But here we avoid that completely. We try to work with them with an equal energy, and full day. So when we do that, they start looking at us as one of them, and they accept us. So that creates a very healthy kind of a community, and that gives me enough security. I don't need to be. These kids, look at their faces, like they come to my project every day, and they are always waiting for us to visit that place, and they are happy with us. So similarly, about water and electricity. So water and electricity, like whenever we go anywhere with any new setup, we try to modify and alter that existing setup as per our understanding, as per our convenience, and we go and first dig the borewell, want to dig the borewell and have a provision of water. So we decided, let's not go with this approach. So we thought, let's first understand what is our actual requirement, and not theoretically. So we decided to experience and understand our actual requirement. So last 2 years, we are experiencing that, my soil composition in my area is such that it gives me a privilege to have a dry toilet. So we are using dry toilets. Potable water, we are dependent on village, water supply system, which is little effort for us, but we don't mind it, doing that effort, taking that effort. Then for other purpose water, we are dependent on harvested rainwater. Little bit of water requirement, or we may fall short annually, but that requirement we calculated won't be more than 2 tankers, which will cost me not more than 1,500 per year, which is a very less money. And then there are hardly any embodied energies, and with compared to, if I compare it with digging a bore well and extracting water from ground, then there is no comparison to it. About food, again, one of my village neighbor, they told me once, so we never feel scarcity about food, even if we don't have money. Then how? Because they have abundance of knowledge and wisdom about resources available in the forest. They tell us, like, sir, we just go in the forest, and forest has everything for us. They have seasonal vegetables, fruits, and everything. Now we are trying to learn that wisdom from them, and trying to understand how come we can survive. It's not only about, buying something from shop. I tell you a small funny story. A small kid travels to a village to his grandfather, and he sees, grandfather taking a milk from cow. And he is, surprisingly watching his grandfather, and he asks you, oh, is this the way you get milk? So grandfather says, yeah, that's the only way. Which way you get it? So he just says, हमारे यहाँ तो भैया देता है. It comes from bhaiya. So this is the sad scenario. So about technology also, we try to adopt human-centric technology. So when I say human-centric technology, we always want technologies, higher technologies, where we are not dependent on people, but we make sure that we hire technologies, which saves little bit of our time, but at the same time, we are partially dependent on people. Because we don't want to get cut off from people. In fact, we want to get connected, with people. Now, after all this pre-study and pre-philosophical, interpretation of everything, uh, we thought of following Gandhian philosophy when construction started, And Gandhiji once shared it with Sir Laurie Baker. Laurie Baker was a great architect of all the time who worked for low-cost housing. Gandhiji once said, if you want to really have an eco-friendly house, just think of using resources from within 5 miles of distance from your house. And local material, local skills, and local artisans, and technology, whatever. So that really made a lot of sense to us, because when you're doing this, when you're constructing a house with this philosophy, you're actually reducing, cutting down all the embodied energies, and you are actually helping to strengthen the local economy. So that made a lot of sense to me. Then another concept we really believed all the time, that save money, because your sustainability is directly related to how much you are spending, because spending is consuming something, consumerism. So even if you are trying to save a single rupee, you are trying to save on some resources. So that approach is very important, and saving money is not something which is these days taken in the wrong sense, but it is your contribution to the sustainability. So with this philosophy we started, and if you look at this figure, this just explains, we are traveling maximum of 4 kilometers distance to get some material for construction. Of course, it is not the 100% truth for my building, because contextually, since situation, circumstances have changed, we are doing something more than that. But we are definitely not using structural steel. We are not using any cement in our building. We are using a little bit of a lime, okay, which is pre-processed cement. So there are very, very, very low embodied energies with compared to cement. We are using it 5% if we would have gone for a conventional building. Then for roof, people these days are replacing their roofing tiles, with tin sheets. So we are buying those cheaper second-hand upcycled tiles, maybe at a rate of 3 rupees per tile or 5 rupees per tile. Then we are using commercial wood, and then doors and windows we are getting manufactured from salvage wood. Now these are kind of inspiration to us. These are locally constructed houses by tribal people and village people. So they look little, temporary kind of structures, and they are, because what tribal people expect from their houses, what aspirations they have for their houses is different than what we have. So, but they are definitely very good technologies, very sustainable technologies. So we intervene little bit into it to make them suitable for our lifestyle, our way of, kind of expectation or aspirations from the house. So these are few type of walls. So this central stone work is my foundation wall. So we are constructing stone wall for foundation without cement, only with mud mortar. So how we do that, because we are trying to revive that ancient technique which were used to construct forts also. So they are very simple techniques, but people have just forgotten over the period of time, and this foundation can take a load of, maybe 3-story building. So technically it is very sound solution. Now this is a Cob Wall, these walls when they were half constructed. Now this is only a composition of mud, soil available in my area, and rice thatch, rice straw. So there is nothing else added into it, and they are very strong. Let me tell you just to help you understand that when we use brick has a compressive strength. Forget all the technical part, just compare the number. Brick has a compressive strength in tune of 90 to 110 Newton per meter square, whereas in Cob Wall has more than 230. So it's very strong, okay? So we are using that, and we work by our hands. So this is me and my wife, we are making this sample partition with a cow dung plaster. Then we mix all the material by hands, so we work ourselves. It's very important when you work with natural material, any natural material for that. to understand that material with your natural senses, not only theoretically or technically. So when you work with that material, you start understanding its strength and capacity. It's like art of making roti. So no matter if your mother tells you कि बेटा इतना आटा ले, इतना पानी डाल, इतना न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वायर से बैलेंस ये कर ले, and then your roti will become good. It will not happen. You will fail making 10 rotis, and 11th will come automatically. And if somebody asks you कि कैसे हुआ, you won't be able to explain it theoretically, technically. So it's like that. You do it, and you will understand it. Now look at this small girl, like she is making that partition wall. So it is so human-centric technique where even kids are enjoying it. So that's me sitting on the top of the roof, making a carpentry work. We really enjoy doing all these things, and we are learning so many things which we have not learned probably when we are living in an urban setup. Initially, we thought of using this wood, forest wood, so which was very appropriate few years back when jungles were very thick and proportion of ratio of human and jungle were little different, So that time it was quite appropriate because tribal people have this wisdom. They know how to cut trees without uprooting them, without killing them. And we did it same way, but still, because of today's thin forest, this is not appropriate any longer because it is damaging the micro ecosystem. So we replaced that with a commercial wood. Now this is a thatch roof with a local grass available. There are a few other minimalistic detailing which helps us have our comfort. At the same time, we are not consuming too much of material. So at the end, what we are doing, we are just trying to walk the talk. So when I say walk the talk, we start walking, and whatever we think is right, we try to do that. Whatever we think is not right, we just avoid doing that. We make mistake. We start walking, thinking, believing something which is right for us. We walk, we cover some distance, and then we realize, oh no, whatever path we selected probably is not right. We have to come back without getting unnecessarily over-attached to the concept or thought that we have thought is right because it is our thought. Give that ego away, come back, restart. Because that's the only thing probably we can do. And it's a journey. It's a constant and, kind of a process. You have to go through it. Just be neutral about everything. Just be genuine about what you think. I did a small mistake yesterday. I took a katori for a vegetable, and then somebody made me realize, thanks to that person, he told me, why you are using it? And I realized, so this keeps happening with us. We make mistake. Somebody points out, you yourself realize it, but just, accept it, change it, move further, So we are trying to do that. We are just trying to walk the talk. And probably, we believe now, after walking some distance, we are just walking, we are just trying, and it's a constant process. But what we can give to our next generations is only a courage, wo himmat hai, That courage is the only thing to walk the talk. We can pass it on to our next generation, our kids. And that's the thing. So that's all for the talk. So thank you so much.